Since computers were invented, they've really just been glorified calculators, machines that can execute the exact instructions given to them by the programmers. But something incredible is happening now. Computers have started gaining the ability to learn, think, and communicate just like we do. They can now do creative intellectual work that previously only humans could do. We call this technology generative AI. And you may have encountered it in products such as ChatGPT. Basically, intelligence is now available as a service, kind of like a giant brain floating in the sky that anyone can talk to. It's not perfect, but it's surprisingly capable, and it is improving at an exponential rate. This is a big deal. It's going to affect just about every person and company on the planet, either positively or negatively. And I am here to help you understand what generative AI is all about in practical terms beyond the hype. The better you understand this technology as a person, team, or a company, the better equipped you will be to survive and thrive in the age of AI. So here's a silly but useful mental model to think about this. Think of Gen AI as having Einstein in your basement. In fact, everyone does now. And by Einstein, what I really mean is the combination of every smart person who has ever lived. You can talk to Einstein whenever you want. He has instant access to the sum of all human knowledge and will answer anything you want within seconds, never running out of patience. He can also take on any role you want, a comedian, poet, doctor, coach, and will be an expert within that field. This Einstein has some human-like limitations too. He can make mistakes, he can jump to conclusions, he can misunderstand you as well. But the biggest limitation of all is actually your imagination and your ability to communicate effectively with him. This skill is known as prompt engineering. And in the age of AI, this is as essential as reading and writing. Most people vastly underestimate what this Einstein in your basement can do. It's like going to the real Einstein and asking him to proofread a high school report, or hiring a world-class 5-star chef and having him chop onions. And the more you interact with Einstein, the more you will discover surprising and powerful ways for him to help you and your company. Okay, enough of the metaphors. Let's clarify some terms now. AI, as you probably know, stands for artificial intelligence. AI is not new. Subfields like machine learning and computer vision have been around for decades. Whenever you see a YouTube recommendation or a web search result, or whenever you get a credit card transaction approved, that's traditional AI in action. Generative AI is AI that generates new original content rather than just finding or classifying existing content. That's the G in GPT, for example. Large language models, or LLMs for short, are a type of generative AI that can communicate using normal human language. ChatGPT is a product by the company OpenAI. It started as an LLM, a large language model, essentially as an advanced chatbot using a new architecture called transformer architecture, which is the T in the GPT. It is so fluent in human language that anyone can use it. You don't need to be an AI expert or programmer, and that's kind of what triggered the whole AI revolution in the first place. So how does generative AI tools such as ChatGPT actually work? So how does a large language model work? Well, a large language model is an artificial neural network, basically a bunch of numbers or parameters connected to each other, similar to how our brain is a bunch of neurons or brain cells connected to each other. Neural networks only deal with numbers. You send in numbers, and depending on how the parameters are set, all the numbers come out. But any kind of content such as text or images can be represented as numbers as well. So let's say I write dogs are dash. When I send that to a large language model, that gets converted into numbers processed by the neural network, and then the resulting numbers are converted back into text. In this case, the word is animals. Dogs are animals. So this is basically guess the next word machine in its simplest form. The interesting part is if we take that output and combine it with the input and send it through the model again, then it will continue adding new and new words at the end of the output. And that's what's going on behind the scenes when you're typing something in ChatGPT. A large language model may have billions or even trillions of parameters, and that's why they're called large. She speaks a few words at first to delight of her parents and then later on full sentences. Similarly, during a training period, the large model is fed a mind-boggling amount of text to learn from, mostly from the internet sources. It then plays guess the next word game with all of this over and over again. And the parameters are automatically tweaked until it starts getting really good at predicting the next word. This is called backpropagation, which is a fancy term for, oh, I guessed wrong, I better change something. However, to become truly useful, a model also needs to undergo human training. This is called reinforcement learning with human feedback, and it involves thousands of hours of humans painstakingly testing and evaluating output from the model and giving feedback. Kind of like training a dog with a clicker to reinforce good behavior. That's why a model like ChatGPT won't tell you how to rob a bank. It knows very well how to rob a bank, but through human training, it has learned that it shouldn't help commit crimes. When training is done, the model is mostly frozen, other than some fine tuning that can happen later. That's what the P stands for in GPT, pre-trained. Although in the future, we will probably have models that learn continuously rather than just during training and fine tuning. Now, although ChatGPT kind of got the ball rolling, GPT isn't the only model out there. In fact, new models are sprouting like mushrooms every day. They vary in a lot of terms such as speed, capability, and cost. Some can be downloaded and run locally. Others are only online, like ChatGPT. Some are free or open source, like Llama 2, while others are commercial products. Some are super easy to use, while others require complicated technical setup. Some are specialized for certain use cases, others are more general and can be used for almost anything. And some of them are even baked into products in the form of co-pilots or chat windows. It's honestly the Wild West right now. Just keep in mind that you generally get what you pay for. So with a free model, you may be getting a smart high school student in your basement rather than the Einstein. And that's the remarkable difference between 3.5 and 4, because one is paid and one is free. Note that there are different types of generative AI models that generate different types of content. Text-to-text models like GPT-4 take text as input and generate text as output. The text can be natural language, but can also be a coding language such as JSON or HTML. I use this a lot myself to generate code when programming, and it saves an incredible amount of time, and I also learn a lot from the code that it generates. Text-to-image models, on the other hand, will generate images for you from text. Describe what you want and an image is generated. And you can even play around with styles that you want your image to be in. Image-to-image models can do things like transforming or combining images. And we have image-to-text models, which describe the contents of a given image. A speech-to-text model creates voice transcriptions, which is useful for things like meeting notes. Text-to-audio models generate music or sounds from a prompt. And lastly, there are even text to video models that generates video from a text prompt. Sooner or later, we'll have infinite movie series that auto-generate the next episode tailored to your taste as you're watching it, thanks to this revolution of generative AI. It's kind of scary, right, if you think about it? One trend now is multimodal AI products, meaning they combine different models into one product. You can work with text, image, audio, etc. without switching tools. And that's essentially what ChatGPT's paid version is right now. You can essentially take a photo of this room and ask it where I could hide stuff in the ChatGPT mobile app, for instance. And it will give you different options and even warnings. Like it told me that you can hide it behind the stove, but also warned me that it might get hot there if the stove is on. One of the very practical ways I use ChatGPT is for brainstorming. When I have things to figure out, such as the content of this video, I like to take walks using ChatGPT as a whiteboard. I start by saying, always respond with the word okay unless I ask you for something. That way, it'll just listen and not interrupt when I'm talking to it. After I've done finishing dumping my thoughts into it, I ask it for the feedback. We have some discussion back and forth, and then I ask it to summarize in text everything that we have discussed. I highly recommend trying this approach. It's a really useful way to use tools like this. Turns out, Einstein isn't stuck in the basement after all. You can take him out for a walk too. Initial large language models were just word predictors, statistical machines with limited practical use. But as they became larger and larger and were trained on more and more data, they started gaining emergent technologies, unexpected capabilities that surprised even the developers of the technology. They could role play, write poetry, write high quality code, discuss company strategy, provide legal and medical advice, coach, teach, basically creative and intellectual things that only humans could do previously. Even with ChatGPT, when they released it, they didn't know that it could talk in 72 different languages. Someone from Bangladesh tried talking to it in Bengali and it actually worked out. So it turns out when a model has seen enough text and images, it starts to see patterns and understand higher level concepts, just like a baby learning to understand the world. Let's take a simple example to further drill down on this. I will give ChatGPT 4 this little drawing that involves a string, a pair of scissors, an egg, a pot, and a fire. What will happen if I use the scissors? Is my question. The model has most likely not been trained on this exact scenario, yet it gave a pretty good answer which demonstrates a basic understanding of the nature of scissors, eggs, gravity, and heat. When GPT was released, I started using it as a coding assistant and I was blown away. When prompted effectively, it was a better programmer than most of the people that I worked with. Same with article writing, product design, workshop planning, and just about anything I used it for. The bottleneck was not its capability to generate the output, but my capability of prompt engineering skills. So I decided to make a career shift and focus entirely on learning and teaching how to make this technology useful. And I created various courses for various use cases of prompt engineering, from text, code, image to video generation. I've taught over 10,000 students in the past year through the Udemy platform. And if you want to join my latest prompt engineering and Gen AI cohort, sign up at the link below for a free consultation. Now let's take a step back and look at the implications. For 300,000 years or so, we Homo sapiens have been the most intelligent species on Earth, depending of course on how you define intelligence. But the thing is, our intelligent capabilities aren't really improving that much. Our brains are about the same size, same weight as they have been for thousands of years. Computers, on the other hand, have been around for nearly only 80 years or so. And now with generative AI, they are suddenly capable of speaking human languages fluently and carrying out an increased number of intellectual creative tasks that previously only humans could do. So we are right there at a crossing point where AI is better at some things and humans are better at other things. But AI's capability are improving at an exponential rate, unlike us. We don't know how long that exponential improvement will continue or if it will ever level off at some point. But we are definitely entering into a new world order. Now, this isn't the first revolution we've experienced as human beings. We tamed fire, we learned how to do agriculture, we invented the printing press, steam power, telegraph. These were all revolutionary changes. But they took decades or centuries to become widespread. This AI revolution, generative AI revolution to be specific, this new technology spreads worldwide almost instantly. Dealing with this rate of change is a huge challenge for both individuals and companies, and we really need to learn and adapt accordingly. From teaching 10,000 students, what I have noticed is that people in companies tend to fall